Hey guys, um, I wanted to do a walkthrough on how to create a table of contents. Now, the actual creating the table of contents is very easy. All you have to do is go into Layout, Table of Contents, and when you go in, you will have certain things that you can pick and choose. The thing to be aware of, the easiest thing to know is that you would include, say, a paragraph style that is listed in your styles here, and you would just add it. And all these other things will come into play later on. But if you're just interested on how to actually create the table of contents, this is how you would do it. Now, it's not that simple though when you get into actually wanting something that's designed the way you want it. So what I'm going to do, and I've actually tried to do this video probably like 4 times, 5 times, and I keep coming up with, I don't want to say errors, but not getting the results that I expected. So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to start from scratch, and I'm going to do it the way you probably either decided you wanted to be done. If anything, it'll give you the proper technique to do it. The first thing I'm going to do is I've got my pages shown, and I'm going to, for this demonstration, it's just a little bit easier if I work with the A master. So I am going to double click on my pages. If your pages window isn't open, go up into Window, Pages, make sure that it's open, and I am going to do 3 things. First is I'm going to create a dummy title for it, and I'll do that by just clicking here, and I'm going to put it across from margin to margin, and I'm just going to type in chapter. This tells me where the chapter is going to go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a box for text. So I'm going to do something roughly, probably, I don't know, roughly half. You could do it any way that you want it, and chances are you already are working with a design that you already have. So this is kind of just to show you, if you wanted to do it from scratch, this is the way that you would do it. All right, I'm going to put my subtitle here. And actually, no, I'm going to do this a little slightly different. I am going to fill this with placeholder text. I go up to Type, Fill with Placeholder Text. This is part of the issues I was having because I was using master pages. It gives me kind of a weird result. Now I don't want this to go into the margin, so I'm going to adjust that a little bit. Now in theory, that's all I really have to do. There's still more I have, but for now, what I want to do is I want to decide, say, I am going to hit here, and I'm going to go back up, and I'm going to put, this is my first subheading. And I'm going to give it a little bit of space, I think. And I'm going to do the same thing down here. This is my second subheading. And I'll give it a space down there. All right, so now that I've gotten this far, what the table of contents does is it bases on the information that you want to put in the table of contents. What you want to be included in that table of contents is determined by the paragraph style. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a character style just to give my characters something to look a little bit more professional. And I don't know why I do that. It just bugs me if it's not. So I went into character styles. If your window isn't open, go up into Window, Styles, and you can see with the check mark there that character styles is already open. I'm going to do New, I get this dialog, and I'm going to put this as body text. Basic character formats, I'm going to choose my font, which is Helvetica, and I'm going to make it regular, and I'm going to put it probably about 11. And I'm only doing that because I don't like the defaults. And I'm going to put, remember, the letting 120% of the point size is what's default. So for 12, it would be 14.2. I'm going to give it a little bit extra space, so I'm going to put it at 18. And I'll click preview to see what's happening. And I can kind of get a feel for it right there. I think that's okay. I'll hit OK. And I'm going to do the same thing to this text here. Body text, there it goes. What does matter is the paragraph style. So what I'm going to do, just to make it easier on myself, I'm going to actually go to the page. Now I could, if I was going to do multiple pages, I could just do that in the master page, but chances are you wouldn't be doing it this way. I'm going to, what you would have to do is go through your pages and make sure that you apply the correct paragraph style to what you wanted to be included. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over to page 1, double click, make sure that you're on, that it's highlighted, that this is not, if you don't double click, if I go up to here, notice that these are both highlighted. I can actually click here and I'm still in the A master. If you double click, it's for sure you are in the page, the actual page. Now because master pages, anything you create in master pages is locked, I'm going to go through, and I know I'm going to be adjusting both of these text boxes. So I'm going to hold the shift command down and I'm going to click to unlock both of these text frames. Okay, so that now I can make adjustments how I see fit. I'm going to change this to chapter 1. I'm also going to highlight the text and I'm going to create a paragraph style. I'm going to do new, double click on it. I'm going to change this to my headings. I'm going to change this to Helvetica. I'm going to put it probably at about 24. Letting doesn't matter because it's only one, but I could put it to auto, and so I don't get any weird results. And let's see. I have it on preview so I can actually see what's happening. I'll hit OK. And I'm going to create now my subheading paragraph style. I'm going to highlight this, create a new style, paragraph style 1. I double click on it to bring up this, and I'm going to do this as subheadings. It's not based on any other ones. Basic character format is going to be Helvetica. And I'm going to put it back to 11, but I'm going to make it bold instead. So it's going to look like the body text, but it'll just be bold. Once I've done that, I could do, I think I put the body text at 18, so I'll put it there. I'll hit OK. And you can see that this is now what I want it to be. And I'm going to change the second one. All right, so technically that's all we need to do. We need to figure out what paragraph styles we want InDesign to choose for the table of contents. All right, so I'm going to create a new page here. This is where my table of contents is going to go. Double click, make sure I'm there, and I'm going to go into Layout, Table of Contents. For the, I'm going to leave the table of contents style as default. This is the title that we're going to put. You could put something like chapters, anything that you want as the title of your table of contents. It could be just table of contents or where to find what you're looking for. It could be anything. I'm just going to put chapters. My style, I could do it on any of the styles I've already created, but in this case, because I want the table of contents to look different than the rest of my pages, I'm going to do new paragraph style. I'm going to change this to what's my TOC looks like. And I'm doing it this way because, like I said, I've done this several times just working through this, and it gets kind of confusing. It's like, what style did I choose? In order to remember in my mind what I wanted the table of contents to look like, not the rest of the pages, just the table of contents, I create the style here. Basic character formats, I'm going to do it differently, just so that you can see the change. I'm going to do American typewriter, and I'm going to change it to light, and I'm going to put it probably about 18 points. Leading, I'm going to do 24. Remember, auto will set you at 120% of the point size of the size. Now I could go through and do all these other things, and there's one that you could possibly do now, but I'm going to show you that you don't really need to decide at this point where you want the tabs to go. You can go back and make changes later on. So that's basically all I'm going to do. I'm going to make my style of the table of contents American typewriter light 18 points. I'm going to hit OK. And now I need to decide what my table of contents is going to include. First of all, I know it's going to be headings, right? Because that's the titles. And I know it's going to be subheadings as well, but we need to also decide what the headings are going to look like. What style is it going to look like in the table of contents? Not in the regular page, but in the table of contents. If I want it to remain that Helvetica 18 or 24, whatever I put in that for the style, then I would leave the entry style as same. I don't. I want to use this new style that I created for the table of contents. So I'm going to go in and put what my TOC looks like. Now, after the heading that it's entered, what do I want? Where do I want the page number to appear? Do I want it to be after, say, chapter 1 and then the page number, or do I want it before the page number or before the text? Or maybe I don't want any page number. In this situation, I'm just going to put it afterwards because I want kind of almost a default table of contents. That number, what do I want it to look like? Well, I want it to look like, I'm going to do none. The next thing I'm concerned about is how do I want the spread between the text and the page number. Now, the default is a tab, and you can see that it's the caret and T. Typically, I leave it at that, but you have a whole lot of different things that you can choose from. You can do right indents, all sorts of different things. For this situation, if you want to play around with it, go for it, but I'm just going to leave it at the default. And the last thing that I want to talk about, there's a lot of different options that you can pick and play around with. After a while, sometimes the default is the default because it's the best. It's up to you though. This other option here, make text anchor in source paragraph, is good if you're doing an interactive PDF. And in some situations that might be what you want to do. What it does is it places an anchor. An anchor is something that you can link to. So like if you wanted to create a link from, say, chapter 1, you click on it and it takes you to that page or that point, then you're going to want to have a link, and that link is going to require an anchor. So in this situation, I don't need it because there's no reason for it, but it is an option that I've used in the past and I find it useful. So, but I'm going to untick that. The next thing is we need to do the same thing for the subheadings. So I'm going to click on subheadings. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to add. I'm going to come in entry style. I'm going to choose what my TOC looks like. Page number after, just like it was before. I'm going to use the tabs just like I did before. What level do you want it? I'm not going to change anything here. And because it needs a character style, I could create one, but I'm not going to. And that should be it. Unless I've missed something, let's hit OK. I went to my page that's blank and clicked. And you can see Chapter 1 is on page 2. This is my first subheading, page 2. Now, this isn't the way I want it to look, so I'm going to select all, Command A, put my cursor in, and first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the tabs, Shift Command T. Now, we could have done this in that style that we created, but you don't really know exactly how you're going to want it to look or how it's going to show up. Eventually, you might get to that point where you know this is what you want, and you'd make those settings, and you wouldn't have to go and do all this extra stuff. Probably the first thing I'm going to do before I actually adjust the tabs is I'm going to adjust the column of text, and I'm going to center it roughly. And now I'm going to adjust the tabs. Select all, Shift Command T, and I put my first tab, I'm going to put it roughly about here maybe. And if you look, you can see they're all lined up. And I also want a leader. And a leader is that difference between the space between the page and the text. So I'm going to put a period. Now if I just put a period, I'm just going to, the dots are going to look strange. So I'm going to put a space there, and I will click off, and now I have a table of contents. I could also do things like change, say I want the title to be centered. Maybe I want this to be bold. So chapters, chapter 1, this is my first subheading. And that's basically all it is. Now, you can make changes here. The problem is that, say I change this to, I say I don't want my in here, and I delete it. Okay, you're all good, right? But when you go to update or redo the table of contents, what's going to happen is everything is going to fall back into the default. So you're going to get that text, the word my is going to be back there. So when you make changes this way, it's a kind of a one-shot deal. I would wait to customize and make any changes to the table of contents until you're sure that the rest of your booklet or book is correct. All right, so I hope that kind of explains how to do it. Now, like I said, I have done this actual tutorial about, well, I think this is the 6th time, and each time I didn't get the results that I wanted. And so don't get frustrated if at first things don't kind of work the way you wanted them to work. It takes a little practice, but once you get to that point, this is so easy to do. Like, for example, when I wrote my last book, I went through and I thought, well, I need a table of contents. I had to actually create a separate paragraph style for the chapters, which kind of sucked. But for the most part, all I had to do was go back and reapply just specifically to the chapter names. And then I created a table of contents, and it was like within, like you saw, maybe a minute, I was done. I did have to make modifications afterwards, but can you imagine having to go through and say, okay, you type chapter 1, and then you go find where chapter 1 starts, page, say, 16, And then on page 16, well, hold on a second. That should be, and then you have to go back and make these changes. Using this automated table of contents is really useful. All right, I think that's it. Let me know if you have any questions, and I hope that it makes sense. And give a thumbs up and subscribe. I don't know, I feel like I just have to say that. All right, thank you guys.